Hi, this is Oh God, it's Matty, or Madu for short. We're going to go over the patch 8.3 developer update for PTB. Finishing your Mori, the killer cannot perform Mori on the final survivor without using an offering. Objects obstructing the camera during the Mori animation will fade away. Momentum Mori offerings have a new effect. Gain a large blood point bonus while performing a Mori on the final survivor. This is so much better than the original Mori, Finisher Mori. The last one was, it was all over. I'm glad that's optional. The bonus blood points better be pretty substantial. We don't know. Also, yay, you can no longer censor Moris. And I love that. You can no longer censor Moris. So, yay. Cypress is now baseline. And great. I don't think this should not affect Mori perks. Already pre-reading this earlier, I don't see any of them getting touched. Unless they want to go back through later. Perks. I want to talk about teamwork perks together because they're the same. This effect will linger for a few seconds out of range. Re-entering the range before the linger time expires will maintain the effects. Increase range to 16 from 12. Teamwork power 2 no longer has a cooldown. So, 2 minutes 20 down to 0. Also, when I talk about perks, I'm only going to talk about them in tier 3. I'm not going to talk about them in tier 1 and tier 2. No longer deactivates when either survivor loses a health state. Both the teamwork perks had a crazy high amount of requirements and a crazy high amount of stipulations that just made it unnecessary. Now here we are. Now we have a ton of stipulation-free teamwork perks that can make teamwork more useful. Actually, kind of one thing I want them to do is take the aura perks like leader, vigil, put teamwork in front of them, streamline the entire thing because they mechanically work very similarly. Like to see that happen, so it's just streamlined. But hey, good fix. Corrective action. I've already seen some concern about corrective action being used with certain perks, such as actually can zoom this out a little bit. Ooh, that's a little too far. Let's do that in. Sorry. I've already seen some concern about hyper focus being paired with this. I could maybe see it. There are some perks I'm just going to label outright that probably should go on the watch list from PTB onward in case they get out of hand and then get adjusted. This might be one of those. However, I still only see it really being used as I'm helping my friend who's brand new to the game with a total of 6 hours in the game. They know that Dwight is a survivor, and that's about the furthest they know. This will help them, and that's fine. Inner focus. I'm going to preface this with all aura perks going forward because a lot of the changes, a lot of concerns I've seen are pretty similar. Information is only as good as you make it. So if you have a Dwight who isn't making the correct calls with the information given, or you have a Trapper who isn't making the correct calls with the information given, then the aura perk is useless. It's nil. It doesn't do a whole lot. Or versus, you have Claudette here who is making all the correct plays, knows exactly what a killer is, knows exactly where her teammates are, and making the correct plays and correct calls. Then the aura perk becomes strong. And say you have a hillbilly with a lethal barbecue and is able to do really good things with that information. Then it's good. I don't have an issue with aura perks. You can't convince me to have an issue with aura perks unless it is just way too much. Otherwise, increase aura reading duration to 10 seconds from 5 and remove the range requirement. Yeah, this is fine. Perk previously required to be within 32 meters of the survivor who loses a health state. That's a bit much of stipulation, and 32 meters already is massive. If you're in the middle of Larry's, it's most of the map. Just removing it is just better for streamlining. So, unless they're stealthy, then you're going to have a ghost face coming but stealing you. Wigliff, we're going to live forever. Increase healing speed to 150 from 100. The endurance effect no longer has to be activated and replace it with a 30-second cooldown. Great buff and a streamline. Cool. This perk is not used very much, and even back when it had the blood point bonus, it just wasn't used a whole lot, and that had way too much going for it. Or in terms of like stipulation. Streamlining perks, streamlining is almost always a good thing. So streamline with a buff, great. Poise. When you first start repairing generator, you see the killer's aura for 6 seconds. Increase duration to 14 from 10. Okay. You get a perk that now hides your aura when you are leaving a generator, or if a generator is finished. Just, yeah, I don't see a problem with this at all. I really don't. Again, back to what I said about auras, the information is very much so dependent on with what you do with it. Plus, if the wording is right when you first start repairing a generator, I think this either procs once or can only up to proc, 7 times? So 6 times 7, 6, 12, 18, 24, 32, 38. Just make sure I'm doing the math right in my head. Yeah, 42 seconds throughout the match. Which, yeah, is a lot throughout the match, but I mean, object gives more. Blood Rush. They turned this into an anti-tunnel perk, which is great. Blood Rush now activates for 60 seconds after being unhooked. Blood Rush now deactivates upon performing conspicuous action and when the gates are powered, and no longer heals or provides broken status effect. This becomes a very good free-to-play or easier to earn anti-tunnel perk. This is great. Beforehand, the anti-tunnel perks that were good were Off the Record and Decisive Strike, with Decisive Strike being obviously the better one of the two. Now you have two very decent anti-tunnel perks free with Off the Record and Blood Rush. I would not combine the two. I think both of them would be overkill. If you want to, go nuts. Pair this with Sprint Burst, you now have a very good anti-tunnel perk. This is great. However, I would definitely keep an eye on this in case it gets out of hand. Quick Gambit, another one to keep a quick eye on in case it gets out of hand. When chase, see the auras of other survivors. Great. I will get to why. Quick Gambit now is 60-second cooldown while losing a health state. Reduce repair speed bonus to 5 from 8. Repair speed bonus as long as a limited range. The unlimited range of it is what's scary. This perk was already strong on certain maps. This perk was very map reliant to be good, almost strictly down to Gideon Meat Plant and Midwich Elementary School. Now this is universally useful, which can be scary with Gen Rush builds. I can see this being ran with Gen Rush builds, as well as windows of opportunity, because now you just sit here, you pre-drop everything, extend the chase for longer than a minute, and the gens are going to not be there anymore. But this, however, I adore, because this was the issue with Quick Gambit, was why am I chasing this nerd when there is 3 people on a generator? I'm going to push them off the generator. This perk in its initial iteration, even up until now, was very counterproductive, and even then only really worked on certain maps. This helps a lot. I don't know what I'd do about this. I would maybe increase it, but there comes a point where increasing it might as well just be unlimited. I don't know. This is definitely one of those I would put into a watch list. Distortion. Distortion is a multifaceted issue. I'm going to start off with the obvious cons. Distortion countered way too much in the game. It countered every single aura add-on, countered every single aura perk, to the point where Killer Instinct, such as Ultimate Weapon, when Ultimate Weapon was meta, countered this, where we're running certain perks that if we want to use our aura perks, we have to run perks like Gearhead to shred through stacks as much as possible. A lot of the gameplay recently on the Killer side has been, in terms of choosing perks, was how do we shred through Distortion, if at all? Killers having aura reading is a net positive, because this will actually encourage them to camp less. This will encourage them to tunnel less, because they can see where their next chase is and they can gauge where their next chase is. I camp significantly less with less of this around, which is another part of the issue, and I will get there. Distortion was also really good at very much so incentivizing the rat gameplay that people associate Distortion with. I know players personally who use Distortion for strictly information or to keep their aura hidden at a very specific point in the game, and it actually works out. But they don't go out of their way to sit here and hide in a corner and gain their stacks. Information is good, because that says, hey, they have an aura perk, or if they know what triggers each said aura perk, that's great. This was also really great for Lethal Pursuer, for people who are just getting found very early every game. The cons of it getting, or another issue with it, as I said earlier, is I camp significantly less. with distortion. On bigger maps, you have to be able to make the call of, hey, there's a Meg on the furthest gen away from me. I don't know where the other two are. If I'm running barbecue, I'm going to assume that I have two people right at hook with me. The argument of, do I leave the hook, gets very, very rough. With distortion, it becomes an even rougher call, because I don't know where the other two are. I know that there's someone way on the further side of the map working on a generator I could care less about. I'm not going to chase them. That, to me, is already the lowest priority. I don't know where Meg and Nia are with distortion. So the odds of this Jake on hook getting tunneled and camped out of the game just skyrockets, especially if you have 3 distortions. Or, even 4. It's not uncommon on the few times I play solo queue. I get into a lobby with 3 distortions. I'm the only one who doesn't have it, and I get tunneled out of the game. And the reason I get tunneled out of the game is because this Wesker can't find anyone else reliably. I'm the only chase he gets into by nature of what this perk can do. The downside I have with the changes of distortion, before I even discuss them, is it does affect the new players. This was a perk that really helped new players ease into Dead by Daylight. However, it did become very addictive. So let's talk about Distortion's changes. Distortion no longer has tokens and instead deactivates once used until the next time you are chased. Increase the duration to 12 to compensate. This is great because now this forces survivors who want to use Distortion and use it constantly to put themselves into very risky situations to get their stacks back. This forces them, to some degree, to play the game. This is very harshly going against the rat meta of Distortion. Great. This is very good, because this puts them to the position of, I need to enter chase. I'm only realistically going to get Distortion 3-4 times. Or unless I want to consistently put myself into the line of fire, get a new stack, go sit on a gen, it gets burned, get back in chase. Like, you have to put yourself into a lot of situations to where Distortion actually becomes useful. Lucky Star now suppresses aggressive pain and pools of blood as long as you are in the locker. This effect lingers for 30 seconds after exiting. Was 10 seconds. No longer reveals survivor gen. I would have kept this. I would have kept this. Because it was nice. This is cool. But I would have kept this. Removing this was unnecessary. I think this one's an L. Killer perks, genetic limits. Anytime a survivor loses a health state, they now suffer from new exhaustion. Yeah, this is fine. Genetic limits was already a pretty strong perk, however, the stipulation was really high. It required survivors to be healed, or healing each other. They're not healing in front of you. They're not healing in your terror radius. This perk was not good to begin with. Now this is actually a really good counter to Dead Hard. If you don't like Dead Hard, run Genetic. If you don't like Balance, run Genetic. Yeah, that's fine. Leverage. I'm going to rant about Dying Light here. It'll make sense as why. When a survivor performs an unhook, their healing speed is then reduced by 50% for 30 seconds. This change, if you read the dev note, was purely to counter the healing under hook meta, but also by the time leverage got to its higher numbers, the game's over. Dying Light suffers the same issue. I want them to do something similar to this with Dying Light. Because Dying Light is a decent perk only when 3 people are dead. Leverage has the same issue. Now it no longer does. Now it's just a flat 50% for 30 seconds. Get off the hook. You get away from the hook. You use something else. Use a different healing perk. Hell, if you have Plot Twist, if you have Inner Strength, great, use it. Thwack. Thwack now starts with 3 tokens. Gain 1 token upon hooking a survivor when breaking anything breakable or break a wall. Consume 1 token and cause a survivor within 24 meters to scream and reveal their location for 5 seconds. Yeah, I mean, just more usability for this. This is fine. You can get more than 1 use. You burn a token per break on a pallet and wall. Tells people, tell you where survivors are. Great, fine. Machine learning just simplifies the perk. The most recently damaged generator becomes compromised. Thank you. Machine learning is a decent perk. It's just you can't move it around if you need to. So kind of how you play with machine learning is you purposely put it on a gen that you kind of want to lose. Now, if there is a gen that you want to lose more and is going to get done first before the one you really want to lose, yeah, this is fine. Deathbound no longer requires distance requirement to activate, no longer has a duration, instead deactivates when the healer is hooked. This just streamlines it and just takes away all of the weird nuance with the perk. I don't see it being used still, but it's better. It's just way too much conditionals. Zanshin, when a survivor is within 6 meters of drop pallet within 6 meters of a drop pallet within 16 meters of your location, the aura is revealed. I could see this being a potential problem with Dracula. That's about it. Otherwise, Zanshin Tactics, which is the survivor equivalent to Windows of Opportunity, was both really good on certain maps because you then knew you could counterplay around a pallet or to play around a pallet, but also or at least have a decent idea what pallets are broken unless you've already shredded through most of them. You don't remember which is which. I don't see this being a net positive. I don't see this being a net negative. It's just it got changed. DMS now only applies to the first survivors who stops repairing a generator, increases duration to 50 seconds, was 30. Dead Man's has always kind of been a weird problem. Bad on its own, really good in certain conditions or against certain killers. This helps streamline it and remove some of the frustration. That's fine. This is perfectly fine. Plus, it also backfires on the survivors if they, one gets off, the other one sticks it. The AMS is active. Yeah, that's fine. Remove cooldown duration reduced to 30 for Blood Echo. Another perk I just don't see being used a whole lot, but yay, remove some of the weird stipulations with it. If this gets out of hand, great, nerf it. If it's fine, keep it. I still only see this being used on Plague. Crowd controlled. Last 5 vaults, each survivor rush vault are blocked by the entity. This is going to get strong, and it's a hex. It should. But this actually does help with the big issue of crowd control, is you just sit here, go to a TL, vault the TL, that TL is now blocked, you run to the other window, now that window is blocked. You can still sit here and chain windows, you just can't chain the same window. Now this blocks off an entire part of the map if you're chaining windows too much. So if windows are your weakness, crowd control. Yeah, this is fine. Get rid of the hex. Just still, get rid of the hex. But 5 volts? Yeah, that's not too bad. Predator. Great. New beginner option. Love new beginner perks. Beginners are the part of the community that suffer the most because there is so much going on with this game. You've got 37 killers. You have 200 perks to learn and learn quick. And you also have to learn how the game works and blah, 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 blah. This helps so much. When a survivor escapes a chase, reveal the aura for 6 seconds. This perk then goes on cooldown for 40. I would take the cooldown down. Personally, it's a new player perk. And yeah, if you want to use this as a higher ranked or a higher experienced player to potentially break chase, congratulations, it's there for you. It's a decent option. But this is going to help beginners so much. Now to some of the spicier bits. Skull Merchant. Decrease hindered penalty when scanned by a drone to 5 from 10. Remove the haste. She's dead. Remove Skull Merchant at this point. Theatrics aside, Skull Merchant has been an issue for so long. Since her inception to now. There's reasons people call her Buff Merchant, and her counterplay is so much based off of perfection. It's not realistic. You can't, especially solo queue, you've got 3 survivors who are not going to play against her perfectly, who are going to mess up. And you can't account for that. And they mess up, and now the merchant just gets buffs for it. And there's no way to visually tell. I love Singularity's design, because I think Singularity kind of took a little bit from Skull Merchant and improved. You can very visually see when the Singularity is buffed. You cannot see this with Merchant. But we're going to continue going on with her. Reduce the number of drone scan lines to 1. This is great. Again, newer players and streamlining a killer That's kind of the point, is not only to lower her kill rate, but make her easier to understand. When it takes people 15, 20 minutes to explain her power, because you have to go in depth with her to understand how she works, is wild. Drone's now always in her active state, so now you can always see where that light is. Drone scan lines are now visible or invisible beyond 16 meters. This is fine. This helps streamline her so much, and this helps make her more understandable. And hopefully, this is at least on the path of where we can start changing her in ways that are healthier for her and for the game. It is easier to nerf something into the ground. This is what's happening with her. She is getting nerfed to the ground. It is easier to take a nerfed anything and rebuff it accordingly than nerf something to the ground and buff things here and there. They actually just recently did this with Dracula, where they just buffed Dracula crazily. They shouldn't have done that. This helps at least be able to reset Skull Merchant. Is she still going to be the killer people are going to DC about constantly? Absolutely. It's just out of the fact she exists. We still see this with Legion. We still see this with Trickster. With Trickster, understandable for other reasons. This will help streamline Merchant. This will help make Merchant more understandable. And that's fine. No longer gone as buff Merchant, but this now helps. Also, kind of going back up to this, is when you have hindered and mixed with haste, it's very rough to play against, because you're playing well, you're playing her perfectly. Welp, you got hindered because you got stuck out of tile, which you should have just left, and you just get hit from Mars effectively. And especially when Pink's bad, it just feels terrible. So Skull Merchant has not felt good in a while. And this is not an argument about counterplay. This is just an argument about making her easier to understand and making her easier to approach from the survivor point of view. So hopefully less DCs, but this also then will allow us to rework her, or allow people to rework her in the proper way. That helps. So yeah, she just got Legion. Hillbilly, decreased time before overdrive starts to dissipate to 8 from 15. Decreased overdrive movement speed to 11.5 from 13 meters per second. Decreased overdrive charges gained while revving and sprinting to 1.5 was 2. Increased chainsaw miss attack cooldown to 2.7 was 2.5. This just brings Hillbilly kind of closer in line. Hillbilly got buffed really hard, and this just helps bring him closer in line. I wanted to see them nerf low pro, and they didn't nerf low pro, but this is fine. He's still going to be strong. Just now, you're not going to be in overdrive as much. Overdrive is not as free, and Billy is still very strong. Yeah, this is fine. Twins. Increase Victor's cooldown when crushed to 20 from 15. Increase cooldown after Victor downs to 3.2 to 2.7. Twins has been in a really weird spot since their inception. They are pub stompers. Always have been, always will be. If you have a group of 4 survivors who are not equipped for their playstyle, which is very slug heavy, and know how to play around twins and are not doing the buddy system, twins will dominate every single time. You get a team who knows halfway of what they're doing and are halfway equipped to deal with twins and have anti-slug builds. Twins lose. It's the game because there's nothing Victor can do. This is still very much so prevalent now. This helps bring that more in line for the average player. The average player is what has to be considered the most here. Is this a nerf to twins? Yes. But is this probably healthier? Sure. This also helps with the buddy system. This is the counterplay to twins, is the buddy system. This helps a lot. Now, again, kind of like Skull Merchant, is this the healthiest way to go? Maybe not. But does this help with the average player? Absolutely. Let's let it sit. Let's see what happens first. The Unknown. New HUD update to display teleport cooldown and hallucination spawn time. Movement speed now decreases sooner when charging your power. I don't like this. I'll get to that. Increase teleport recovery speed by 15%. Adjustments to blur photo and vanishing box add-ons. Improved visual and audio feedback when using UVX. Let's go with the positives here. This is a mass declunking of Unknown, which is great. My issue is now you can no longer edge your power and store your power to put your husk where you want it to some degree. You now can't do that, or at least not as effectively. What I would have done is while in chase, then this kicks in. If you're out of chase, then no. Because while in chase, I don't really care about where my husk is. I'm not focused on my husk. My husk is going to pop out whether or not I like it. When I'm out of chase, where I want to put a husk somewhere that's strategic for me, I want to be able to edge. This is fine in chase, but this needs to go when not in chase. That's what I would do. The rest of this is declunking. The only other thing I would just bounce logic. Otherwise, Unknown is fine. There's some buffs here ultimately, but it's just a mass declunking, and that's just all it really is. All right, and that is the dev letter. I will see you all in the next video. I will see you all later. Thank you for listening to me rant, and see you all next time. Have a great day.